Hello and welcome to Logan Sounds Off, where we talk about books, music, and a whole lot more. I'm your host, Logan Kelly. Hello and welcome to Logan Sounds Off. Today I'm talking with Brid, Conroy, and Neil Paul, who run Tertulia Bookshop. So guys, for those who don't know you two, who are you?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Brid.
Well, we're two people who we're married and we own a bookshop. So the bookshop is called Tertulia, as you said. Tertulia means a place where people gather to meet and talk about books and life and politics and society and who we are, that kind of thing. And that's the name of the bookshop. So we ourselves live in Lewisburg, which is near Westport, about 15 minutes from Westport.
I've been to Lewisburg. Beautiful place, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is beautiful, even if we don't get as hot weather as Kildare. And the bookshop is it's about 20 minutes from where we live. It isn't in the main part of Westport. It's down on the quay. There's a quay area, which is, by the sea, next to Westport House. It's a lovely place to have a bookshop. We love our job.
When I went to your bookshop, I always loved the quay. It was a beautiful place there. And then we used to go there all the time. And then we spotted Tertulia, and that's how that happened. But for you, Neil, it was books at the age of 13. And then Brid, I don't know what age it was for you when you got into books, but what books did you guys read when you were kids?
Such a long time ago.
Well, I was into science fiction and science fantasy, and I still love science fiction and science fantasy. So nothing's changed there for me, Logan.
Yeah, we have a science fiction and fantasy section in the bookshop.
Yeah, very small section.
But we have some props from Aliens that you worked on a science fiction movie. That kind of helps too. They're obviously not books, but they're in the corner with the books on science
and
fiction.
Pictures, lots of pictures and posters and just science fiction kind of.
Can you remember any of the ones that you read when you were 13?
Oh, well, it was Conan the Barbarian, there was a movie made of it. I don't know if you've probably heard of it, Logan.
No, I was kind of going, I've never heard of that, but I'll nod my head anyways, listen to that. Wow. Who's that by?
Robert E. Howard was the author. And I still have the books that I read at 13. I still have some of them left.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we still have.
Do you want me to show you one?
Yeah,
sure.
He'll go and find one, and I'll tell you what books I like. Hopefully he won't make too much noise. So I started reading I can remember about 7, Logan. I was about 7 years of age. My grandmother, we lived in the centre of Dublin, and my grandmother was a huge reader. So she would read about 4 or 5 books a week. So my mother, when she was younger, used to get sent to the library. We used to get sent to the library to get the books, and then various other grandchildren, and I was one of them, was all replaced her as time went on, because we only lived around the corner from my grandmother, so she would send us to the library. So there was 2 libraries. One of them is still there in Phibsborough Library on the north side of the city near the Mater Hospital. There's a beautiful old library. And the other one was Capel Street Library, which is, goes onto the river in town, but that no longer exists. Capel Street was kind of my favorite one. It was bigger. So we used to go, she used to send us, me particularly, I would go down maybe twice a week to get books for her. And she read so many books in the library that she used to put a little red dot on the front of the ones that she'd read.
I actually remember reading that. And
yeah,
when I read it, I just went, wow, what an idea. And I can only imagine I go into the libraries and I'd open up a book and I'd see a little red dot on it.
You would. So we used to spend ages, so you'd be there for ages pulling all the books off the shelf. No, red dot, no good, red dot, no good. And then you keep going. So I guess because we were going to get her books, I used to get books. So the books that I remember most, which is similar for a lot of people in my age, I used to read Enid Blyton books. So I started with The Secret 7, and I read all of those. Then I started with The Famous 5, and I read all of those. And then there was Mallory Towers. I can't even remember half of the other ones. But every single book that Enid Blyton read, or Enid Blyton wrote, and that existed in Capel Street Library or Phibsborough Library, I read them all until I ran out of books to read.
Wow, because I am a massive Enid Blyton fan. Like,
Wow.
was it when I was 6 or was it 7? I read all the Famous Fives and I loved them. And I thought they were so good. And I loved them all lined up, and they were really old copies now, picking them out. So, which was your kind of favorite kind of Famous Five book?
Oh, I can't remember. I honestly cannot remember. In fact, we do have them in the shop.
We do.
And in fact, we've got new ones as well. And we have second-hand ones also, those old ones as well. So people have given them to us. I don't know, they went up. There was one where they went off to a rock, didn't they? It was like a
Yeah.
lighthouse, and five go on a famous five go on a rock or something. It was called. I remember that one.
That was actually my favorite book.
Ah, you see.
I'm actually not joking when you said that. Wow. And then that sci-fi book, Neil, what was that?
Oh yeah. So we got these ones here. These are the Conan the Barbarians. I don't know if you can see them.
Well, they're back to front.
Back to
anyway,
front.
yeah.
Anyhow, they're like about a warrior who lived in a fantasy land that was around before we were around.
So Conan the Warrior and Conan of I don't know how to say that.
Samira.
Samaria.
So these were first published in short stories in the 1930s, I think, if I remember rightly, and then they republished later on. And so yeah, this guy lived in Texas, and he wrote these like fantasy books in 1934. A long time before I was born or you were born, but I think they're still published now. We haven't got any in the shop. I must get some, but they're just amazing books. And also I was into the Alfred Hitchcock Investigators. I don't know if you ever read them.
I haven't, but I've heard of Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah, he was a
Somewhere.
director, and I don't know if he wrote the books actually, but somebody wrote the books.
Well, they're in his name.
They're in his name. Yeah, and they were really good fun as well. So I did like sort of mystery books as well as science fiction.
Yeah, I read mystery books, Agatha Christie as well, actually. I'm trying to remember some other ones, yeah.
So what else do you read, Logan?
Well, I love Skullduggery Pleasant, and actually a guy in your shop got me into Skullduggery Pleasant.
Oh yeah,
and
that was
called
Jake.
Yeah.
Was his name Jake?
That was
Yes.
Jake. I remember
Yeah.
the conversation.
Jake
Yeah.
told me you should read Skullduggery Pleasant, and I went, oh, but I thought that was for teenagers. And they says no, you should totally read them. And then I've got like I think 17 books there.
What?
Of Skullduggery Pleasant
Wow.
now. And then I also love Gordon's game series.
Okay.
The first 3. I've read all the Harry Potters, and we're gonna get on to that in a little bit. And then at the moment, I'm reading Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, and also Just Henry by Michelle
Oh yeah.
Florian.
Yeah. Just
And she also wrote Goodnight, Mr. Tom, which is
Mm.
also quite famous.
We
So
do have that in the shop.
I'm reading them, and they're very good books.
Good.
Wow.
Keep reading. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
It's just so important.
Yeah, because I did move on to classics too. Yeah, after that I would have read, Bronte and Austen, Jane Austen and those kind of Treasure Island and what's the one, all the little people. Lilliput,
Lilliput.
sorry.
Gulliver's Travels.
Gulliver's Travels, sorry. Yeah, that was
Lilliput, where it was like,
Lilliput.
I remember watching the Jack Black version of that.
Oh
And
yeah. Yeah, me too.
I knew like the proper story because I read Boy Giant by Michael Morpurgo, and I just went, "What is this?" Watching it.
Yeah, it wasn't very good, was it? It wasn't
It
very
was very good
no.
for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, totally. Oh.
So following on from Harry Potter that we were talking about, Neil, I'm a 10-year-old child. I have to ask, what was it like working on Harry Potter with people?
It had its magical moments, Logan. Especially seeing the kids grow up. Because when I first worked on the movie, they were like really small, and then every time I'd work on a movie, they'd get bigger and bigger and bigger. So they were really lovely to work with, and everybody. It was like a big family on Harry Potter because people were on it for all through the years when they were filming. So yeah, it was lovely.
Neil always says to people, I don't know if he said it to you, Logan, he always says to people, have you ever met anyone who worked in the Ministry of Magic? And they go, no. And he goes, well, you have now.
Oh my God. I remember I was talking to you and you showed me, or somebody in your shop, probably you, was showing me something, because this was like a year ago or something. And they were showing me Under the Stairs. And I was just like watching it and looking at all the posters and the books and everything. And I actually thought, wow, I've come. It was just my luck that I went into a little bookshop on the quay in Westport, on my Holliers, as we call it. And I happened to spot the real cupboard Under the Stairs. And that was a very big moment for me. So I can only imagine what it was like working on Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And I have to ask, did you watch the 20th anniversary thing?
No, I didn't
Harry
actually.
Potter?
I didn't
Well,
see
when
it.
you were talking there about that they got bigger and bigger and bigger, I noticed, like, was it Chris Columbus, the director
Yeah.
of the first two? He was saying the exact same, that it was like they were a big family. So I can definitely believe it. Watching the clips, they were so funny. And then when you're saying when you were working on the movies, which was your favorite Harry Potter to work on?
Probably the Prisoner of Azkaban, because I was working up in Scotland with Hagrid's hut, and I did one of the scenes, one of the quite famous scenes where Hermione throws a stone through the window.
Yeah.
So I brought the camera through the window, and like I was behind the hut when they were filming that, like dragging the camera through. So everybody remembers that scene because it's quite important in the film, because they save Buckbeak from the execution.
Yeah, poor Buckbeak. But like, that must have been very grim for you to be doing that scene. But I do remember seeing a photo of you helping out with something in Tertulia, and I was so curious to see which was your favorite Harry Potter to work on, because they were all very good films.
Yeah.
And
What's your favorite?
some of them were so out there that they were kind of funny, that you were kind of laughing at them. So I was very, very curious to know which one you would have picked. And I also want to ask, did you read the books before you started working on the films?
No. I was working actually on The Prisoner of Azkaban when I got the first book for my daughter, because she was about 6 at the time. And I bought the book at the airport as I was flying home. And while I was waiting for the flight, it's a bit boring in the airport. So I started reading the book, and I thought it was so good, I couldn't put it down. So I more or less finished it by the time I got home. And then I read it to my daughter, who was quite small. And I just loved the first. My favorite book is the first book, definitely.
Like, I can totally agree with you, because you can read Harry Potter anywhere and you can't hear anyone, you can't see anyone. You're so sucked into the book. And especially for me, the first chapter is so, like, you've got so many questions rushing through your mind that you feel like you're there, and that you're Dumbledore or McGonagall, that you're kind of, is it the first chapter or the first part of the movie that they're talking about Dudley pulling the arm off his mother for sweet? And you can't give it to them muggles because they're awful people. I can definitely agree with that, because that was a lovely chapter. I could definitely agree with you there.
So what's your favorite movie of the Harry Potter franchise?
Oh God, the impossible question. Well, I always loved Deathly Hallows Part 1, because the Deathly Hallows Part 2 was kind of all battles. It was kind of all battles. Half-Blood Prince I used to watch over and over again. But I'd probably go with either Half-Blood Prince or the third one, because I loved the third one. Because in the Chamber of Secrets, they were so tiny. And then in the third one, they're literally teenagers, and you're going, what the hell happened between those two movies? And watching it. And I have to ask a question now, thinking about it. But did they change throughout, kind of like when you started on or finished up with the Chamber of Secrets and then you started on the Prisoner of Azkaban? Did you notice that change yourself?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Because it was probably about 6 or 7 months between finishing on one and then starting on the other one.
Oh,
maybe
wow.
even a year. So there, you notice the difference. I mean,
Then a lot can change.
yeah, so it's a long time.
Oh, they actually got very taller.
They
But
became,
now,
and they became better actors.
Yeah.
yeah,
they-
and then other films that you've worked on. What are the other films? Like you mentioned Alien. We all know about Harry Potter now. But are there any other movies that you worked on?
Well, have you ever seen the James Bond movie 007?
I haven't really seen any Bond movies. But I think I've read somewhere that you worked on Octopussy.
No, it was actually
Oh.
GoldenEye.
Oh,
And
wow.
gold is not enough, or as I used to call it, the pay is not enough. And that was those 2 Bond movies that I worked on.
Oh, wow. Where did I get Octopussy then? I think I read it somewhere.
Yeah.
Wow, that must have been really fun to work on the James Bond movie.
Yeah.
Are there any others?
Well, what else? I worked on a movie set in Italy called In Love and War. And then
Which is about Ernest Hemingway. So it's about,
Yeah.
his famous writer Ernest Hemingway, who was a soldier in World War One.
No, he was a medic.
Oh, medic, sorry. He was a medic in World. Was he?
It's a true story.
Oh,
Yeah.
he was a medic in World War One.
Yeah.
So
In
that
Italy.
was before he wrote. He didn't write till after the war, I think.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a story about
It's based on a book called Farewell to Arms.
Yeah. So that was really nice.
That was really nice, and there were some famous people on that. And then I worked with Julia Roberts on a really bad film called Mary Riley, which I couldn't even sit through. It was that bad.
But there was some big actors on it. But that was also based on the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's also a classic.
Before you go on, if you have a next movie, was it so bad it was good, or was it so just it was
just so bad?
It was just nada.
No good at it at all.
It's a great story. I don't know why it was so bad. The script is really bad or something.
Yeah.
I went to the set because it was filmed in Scotland. And I some of it, yes. So I saw some of the location, but also then I went on set to see the set.
Set was amazing.
The set was so amazing because it was an old house in ye old England, and Scotland, sorry, yeah. And they'd rebuilt this whole house. Like, and when you're in it, you feel like you're actually in the proper house. But then when you look behind, you see there's nothing there. It's just like scaffolding, there's no actual house.
Just pretend.
So it was amazing, but
it's all pretend.
The script wasn't very
good. Did you ever see the film?
I did see the film.
I couldn't sit through it.
I did see it, yeah.
So are there any others? Sorry.
Well, I worked in Hollywood for a while on a TV show.
Wow, that's a very massive deal.
Yeah.
Was that a Moonlighting?
Yes. Well, good.
Yeah,
Very good.
with Bruce Willis. I remember my mom was like, "Oh my God!" And I went, "What is it, Mom?" And this guy you're talking to, Neil Paul, he worked on Moonlighting, and I went, "Moonlighting?" And then she told me what it was, and I went, "Moonlighting!" And she told me.
So I did that, and I did a sort of a music video over there as well. And I did a few music videos in London, and then I worked on lots of commercials and a few TV shows, and sometimes I'd work on. I worked on 101 Dalmatians, the real one, not the cartoon one, but the real one.
Which had Glenn Close in it, and
101 Dalmatians, the real life one. Like I asked my friend, "Oh, I've watched 101 Dalmatians," and they went, "Yeah," and then I went, "Oh, is it the animated one?" And they went, "Hmm." Because they didn't know there was an animated one, that the new one is so big now.
Yeah.
So you were working that. Wow. Did you work on the second one, 102?
No, I didn't. Yeah. So what do you want to do when you get older, Logan?
I always wanted to be a producer or a broadcaster or something in the media. Or if that didn't work out for me and I kind of flunked that, I wanted to be a librarian. Or I wanted to work with books.
Okay.
Because when I always go to myself, I love collecting books. I love being able to say, "Oh, that's my shelf of books there. They're my 17 school degree presents that I've spent way too much money on. There are all my Gordon's games. There's all my Harry Potters." And I always love collecting books. So I want to work in a place where there's lots of books.
Well, you may end up running a bookshop one day with all your books.
Or being a broadcaster about books, broadcasting about
That's
books.
a good idea.
Or and will you have your books as long as Neil has his Conan books? Will you have your skullduggery when you're Neil's age?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I hope not.
And actually, talking about the way with the bookshop or a bookshop, with your bookshop, are there any recommendations for kids? Not just me. I'm not trying to get recommendations here. For other kids, that are coming into your bookshop that are new and are pretty popular and people are loving them.
Well, we have a young lady working with us who's 16. She's working for the summer, called Eleanor. She's really lovely. And she is such an expert on books. So when kids come in, I just say, Eleanor, go and find a book for them. And she does. So she did today.
Yeah.
She's so good. Because, I mean, you know, the stuff I love is kind of more grown-up stuff, you know, obviously. So I'm not the biggest expert on young kids' books.
Yeah, I was trying to think what books are selling and what the customers like the most. I mean, I love reading young adult books, actually, because they're brilliant, and all age kids books.
So like some young adult books can be amazing. Like I read Small Steps by Lily. Is it Sacha or Sakar? I never knew how to pronounce it, and I went, wow. And I also read the first Cherub book. I wasn't going to continue with that series though. It was Jake recommended it to me, and then a teacher told me, actually, you could read those now. I started reading the first one, and then I saw the blurb for the next one, and I kind of had to stop on the series. But young adult books can be really good, so I totally agree with you there. So
I mean, some of the big, Heartstopper, which is a graphic novel, is very popular at the moment.
Oh wow, Heartstopper. Okay. Like, what's that? Is that like for kids or is it for kind of young adults?
It's more for young adults, really. Yeah, it's they're graphic novels, and they become popular because they're on Netflix. You know, it's
TV show.
TV show, but it would be for someone. It would be older than yourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, we people. I mean, kids your age as well, do still love the graphic thing. So the you know, they still love Dogmans. We keep selling those all the time.
There will always be people to buy Dogmans.
I know, but Bunny versus Monkey is the latest one. So the latest book that came out is Bunny versus Monkey and the Maniacal Cat. I can't remember, the Maniacal something. Anyway, so that's the latest one. So there's loads of those, and it was so funny because I kind of got a bunch of them and I put them on the top shelf, and I just remember seeing kids like around your age, I suppose, coming in and they're just grabbing them off the shelf, like they knew exactly what they're looking for, grabbed it. Like,
I can only imagine Tertulia with loads of kids lining up to get their copy and buying them out the door. Next!
Next, exactly. On you go, next one.
And Diary of a Wimpy Kid still sells.
Yeah, that's still sells.
That's amazing. Have you read them?
I've read all of them apart from Big Shot, the latest one, because I had a problem where I would buy a Diary of a Wimpy Kid for 17 quid. And I'd go, I can't wait to get into this. I'm going to spend a couple of days on this. And I'd read it in an hour. And I was really annoyed with myself because it happened before where I paid €15 for a paperback book. And I didn't like it that much.
It's true. The parents do complain that kids read them
too quick.
I mean, the best ones. I mean, well, what we kind of
they are very good.
They are
some
really
people
good.
can read them quite fast.
But what you need to do is go to the library, Logan, and then you don't pay the money.
Exactly. And like that Just Henry book. And I'm reading Philip Pullman, or I read the first two of his Dark Materials, and then the Morris Gleitzman book once. Just get them out of the library.
Exactly.
Like in our library, fines are gone. They can be overdue. You can take out 12 books. The librarians there are so nice. One of them is brilliant recommendations. The other one is just lovely all the time to people. So
it's a great job.
That's a big lesson for people who love books. Go to a library. Don't waste your money on some books that you think you might not like.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. So you know, there's lots of other young adult books coming out. We had a young adult book club. So actually for 8 to 12-year-olds, and then 13 to 15-year-olds, we did 3 of them. So that we did April, May, and June to see how that would go. So we had different books. Like we had one called Melt, which is for 8 to 12-year-olds, which is wonderful. It's about two kids from different backgrounds who meet in Alaska, and it's a great story what happens on the ice to them. We had Mockingbird is the last one that we did for that age group.
I heard something about that. I heard that rang a very loud bell in my ear.
Yeah, you might
Very loud bell.
Yeah, you might have read that one.
So I have to then check out Mockingbird.
Yeah, so it's not a recent one now, but that was really good. Yeah, we get new books in all the time. There are so many new books. It's incredible.
Yeah.
We get some in, we sell them, and then we try some new ones, we don't get the same ones all the time. We really try to have a different selection. So if somebody does want a new book or to try something different, that they'll be able to find it.
And when are you coming back to Westport, Logan?
Oh, I'm coming actually in 13 days. So I'm gonna be back. Well, maybe not to Westport. See, for those who don't know where to go for their holidays, Ackle Sound.
Yes.
Okay, so do you know Conroy?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We go to Conroy, and the Compass Bar.
Yep.
We're literally a bit down from the road in a house, with loads of skylights on the top. It was the old boathouse.
Okay.
For Charles Dickens' grandson's house. That my great grandmother, I think, lived in.
Okay.
My mom's grandmother lived there. And it's a lovely place. It's lovely. And then we go to Westport every year, and it's one of my favorite things to do. We just a bit of holiday money, just running around looking through all the shops. And then I've only gone to Tertulia. Sorry, I've gone to it twice. The last time I went was in October. Actually, I told a lie. It was in October, not July, when I went over there. And I bought the Wizards of Once. And I went there when I went to the only fjord in Ireland. I went to a little hotel there. And it was quite close to Westport, so we popped down. So yeah. That's the next time I'm coming to Westport.
So we might see you when you come down then.
During a week and a half, in 13 days, I'll be in and around there. But I can guarantee I'm going there unless something really bad happens.
I'm sure it won't.
Really, really bad. Nothing's keeping me from there.
Good.
Oh, good. Okay.
Okay, that's good.
And then with favourite tunes, like I read a thing, you were talking to Daniel Radcliffe about punk bands, and I went, whoa, Daniel Radcliffe likes punk. And then I read that you were into the Clash, I think.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, and there's some brilliant bands. So what are your favorite tunes? And Brid, what are your favorite tunes as well?
God, there's so many.
That's a difficult question, Logan. That's very
I tell you, whenever I ask this to a DJ and musician, it is hilarious watching it back. It's actually hilarious.
Well, because they have so many that are their favorites.
I know. Like when someone asks me, I go, can I have 10 favorites?
Oh, I don't know. Music's kind of funny. I think for us, particularly for our kind of age group, because there was so much change. There was so much new music each 5 to 10 years. So when I was younger, I started off and I loved, I met my cousin this weekend who I hadn't seen for ages, and he said to me, he always remembers the day I came around to their house with my Grease album. So Grease was John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John. It was the movie. So we had
the
soundtrack. Yeah. So it was my first LP, and it was the soundtrack. I was 11 years of age, and I went round to my cousin's house and showed them all the dance moves from Grease. So that was kind of my beginning of music, which sounds very uncool.
You know what? Whenever I will ask someone what is their favorite music, I will always compare it to when Brid Conroy told me I got a Grease album and I showed my cousins how to dance with it. I will always compare it to that. Now there's the Brid standard very high now.
Thank you. I like that standard. And I did move on. I moved on to Saturday Night Fever, which was actually better than Grease. Soundtrack from that, yeah.
Yeah.
Staying Alive is still one of my favorite songs of all time.
Bee Gees.
Bee Gees, if you're in a bad mood, put Staying Alive on, and that's it. You'll be instantly.
Like, even like the kids in my class, when the teacher goes out, they go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they start going.
Everyone knows that.
They all love it. Now I think it was like 1 million listens on Spotify, and Bee Gees are quite famous for that song. And I remember watching the video with them walking through the street, and I just, oh my God.
It's so ridiculously 70s. Oh my God.
It is.
It's so 70s.
At least they didn't have like very floppy jeans and massive hair. That would have been very, very painful to watch.
What about you, Neil? You're
David Bowie. You've heard of him, I guess.
Do you know what? I've got Changes over there. Changes one Bowie. And it still remains the album that I used to listen to. Fame, Changes, Ziggy Stardust on repeat. And I loved every second of it. So David Bowie, yes, I definitely know him.
And well, obviously the Clash. Neil then moved on to punk music. We both did, only I was a bit later than Neil, but
yeah. And then there was other bands, like New Order.
They're very good. And then I always thought it was so funny, but Tutti Frutti by New Order, where it's kind of like a scratch of a high-pitched noise, and then it's just this deep, like Spanish or French man just comes in. Tutti Frutti. I always thought it was a very funny song.
Don't remember that one. Don't remember that one.
Yeah, that's New Order. Mental. And then Joy Division were linked with them, weren't they?
That's right.
They were before.
Yeah,
they were amazing.
Yeah, they were very good punk bands there now.
Very good.
So my final question. I've asked this to so many, two. I was about to say so many people too. But have you got any questions for me at all?
Good question.
Yeah, why do you want to do these interviews? Why do you like them?
Well, actually, I've had 2 questions that were the same in a row, and I'm kind of happy there's a different one. But I like doing these interviews simply because it's a way of connecting with people and kind of getting Logan Sounds Off to be known more, so people can try to get to know people. Because like Tertulia, a lot of people love Tertulia, and a lot of people have gone to your shop. So it's kind of nice to know about people, where I just like interviewing people because it's fun to talk to someone about something that I enjoy. Myself, I love books, and this is like my first book kind of chat. And then I've interviewed loads of musicians and DJs as well. And I love talking to music about that because Logan Sounds Off is about music and books. So that's why I love interviews. Just to have someone to chat to be honest, at the same time. That's kind of the other side to it, but I just love doing the interviews as well. It's just very enjoyable to talk to someone like you guys.
And you're very good at it, Logan.
You are very
Thank
good.
you.
Very good.
Yes, I can see you on RTE in a few years' time. Yeah,
I went for Late Late Toys show last year. That was a big bust.
Next year, you get it. Well, you get it later.
We'll get there.
Absolutely.
So I don't have any more questions. We're gonna have to finish up there because the meeting time is that close to dying on us. So thank you guys so much for talking. It's been such a pleasure. I'll see you in August, hopefully, and I can't wait to come. I'll see you guys.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, Logan.
Thank you for listening today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Logan Sounds Off. And if you have any questions or requests, you can email logansoundsoff@gmail.com.